We'll start with the Daily Graphic this morning. Government begins state lands reforms. Prospective owners to make 70% upfront payment of market value. So we are now going to sell state lands at market value, and you are reforming the space. You can't buy state land for 200 cedis anymore. The lands minister is on the front page of the Daily Graphic. We can't wait forever for the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. This is AGI demanding alternative regional trade access. And yesterday, after our conversations on the Burkina Faso issue, I was thinking, all the various trade routes you can easily use to trade, the physical routes, there is some conflict. If you want to drive straight to North Africa, you could have gone through Burkina, Mali, Niger, all those to Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, but you can't because there is conflict. So now you have to use the Western Sahara route, right? So you can easily transport goods to North Africa in 5 to 7 days via road. But now I have to go by sea. And Africa, we don't own a lot of the assets when it comes to sea freight. If you want to go to Eastern Africa, you have to go through Nigeria, Cameroon, right? There is a bit of instability in Cameroon, part of Cameroon. So we really need to think about it.
I know that there's a time that Magdan Shipping, talked about acquiring, some cargo ships to transport goods across Africa as part of Africa.
Yeah.
And these are things, but you see, these are things that we should consider. We have businesses in this country, and sometimes instead of saying, we cannot do this, we cannot do that, look, traders, businesses in this continent should be pushing after and not presidents, because that's our presidents. Masa, we've seen what they did with ECOWAS. It became a political group instead of a trade group. So what the businesses should do is that the businesses should take advantage of these policies and make sure that it's implemented. So business groups, so the AGI in Ghana will look at their counterparts in other parts of Africa and work something out. But if we leave it and say, our presidents, forget it.
But there are some places we've worked things out, but the physical infrastructure to get you to those places becomes a problem. If you want to ship to Kenya, for example, you have to go all the way around the continent to the other side, right? But if we had, say, the Trans-African Highway done, you could easily drive to Kenya in some 10 days, right? Doing some 120 kilometers per hour average speed. So maybe we need to think about it. But the president is also on the front page of the Daily Graphic. AU endorses President Mohammed's resolution for reparative justice. And the Burkina Faso issue, attack on Ghanaian tomato traders in Burkina Faso. Jenim militants behind the deadly assault, according to the Ghana embassy. And state must heighten security alertness, according to Adam Bona. If you go to the back page of the Daily Graphic, Audome Osu cemeteries not full. This is according to the managers.
Great. The daily guide for this morning: Gold Board suspends selected gold buying license applications. MOFA Foray Link signed digital agric MOU. Burkina Faso terrorist attack, 7 Ghanaians killed, 4 injured. DNA test underway to identify burnt bodies. Ken won't break away from the NPP. That's his spokesperson. And court orders man to pay 200,000 cedis for breach of marital promise. I know there are many people who are interested in this story, so I'll share it with you.
Yes, the NPP Yatia Ho story is in the National Enquirer. Yatia Ho hits NPP as disgruntled delegates unveil new party debate. But the story you read from the Daily Graphic suggests that Ken Japan is not breaking away from the NPP. Now, more from the Enquirer. Cocoa politics. NPP on ease as NDC rolls out sweeping sector reforms. 70% for farmers, 50% local processing, bonds for stability. Farmers applaud government. And State Housing Company issues final warning to encroachers. There are other stories. Bost Energies bids farewell to Deputy MD, welcome successor. So the Deputy MD then, Mamisewa Bonzi, has now gone to the Energy Commission, and there's a new Deputy MD for Bost now.
The Insight says Ghana poised for first female president. That's according to President Mahama. No public lands to be allocated without prior approval by Lands Ministry. Amakofibua warns in sweeping reforms to safeguard state lands. Mahama, Chief of Staff, BOG, Governor to grace prestigious 2026 Kwewu Business Forum. State Housing Company declares war on land encroachers, says illegal occupants face demolition. An excavator ticketing not linked to illegal mining in Upper Dentra East. MCE Anani Coleman clarifies. And automobile dealers slash prices by 15% amid city stability, COVID-19 levy removal. NPP eyes 2028 comeback as Apenyo marking rallies Tescon behind Bawumia.
Now, if you go to the catalyst, cabinet moves to revoke over 8,000 irregular public land deals. Ghana to end foreign cocoa financing now, and Ghana to process all minerals locally by 2030. This is President John Dramani Mahama speaking. And far-reaching reforms shake up the cocoa industry. And new political movement, the base, launched in Kumasi to challenge NDC NPP duopoly. Those are stories from the catalyst.
Okay, which means we can get into the online news review.
And this morning we have a digital copy of the BNFT. So I think it's fair to start from that before we go to the mainstream online platforms. The BNFT newspaper this morning: government to cancel uncompleted public land deals after 8,160 lease review. Ring-fence debt relief savings for water protection, anti-illegal mining push. And family businesses well placed for regional leadership. This is according to IFC. A new control tower, terminal link, national career anchor aviation hub agenda. So the national aviation hub agenda is still going, but where is the national airline? Where is the national airline, Winston? Anyway,
well, I'm told that. Well, the last time there was a committee that has been put in place. We need a national airline.
And then we also need a national space program. Americans have astronauts, Russians have cosmonauts. Ghana, when we have a space program, maybe we can have groundnuts.
Let's get the national airline working. And look, we can partner. We can partner with some of the bigger airlines to have a national airline. Or we can also decide
start working with Passion and Africa World together.
We can also decide to start it. Start running African flights, and then we move to Europe, the Americas, and others. It's simple.
And after that, we go to space with our groundnuts to compete with the astronauts and the cosmonauts.
I'm not interested in space.
Let's go to my job online. COCOBOD announces salary cuts, cost controls as revenue pressures mount. So the top executives are taking a 20% cut, right? And the senior executives are taking 10%.
Yeah, the senior staff, 10%.
But what people are asking is, if the farmers took about 20-something percent,
30%,
the COCOBOD should also take 30%. Why 20 and 10? What is good for the goose?
You have a point.
So anyway, more stories from my job online. NDC opens membership drive as Fifi Kwete pushes bigger tent politics, and Mahama rallies his fellow world leaders to support Accra reset. Tanker blast. NRSA, that's the National Road Safety Authority, presses for safety reforms, and Tony Edu urges NDC to focus on policy communication, not personal praise for Mahama. And the story you read earlier, court awards 200,000 Ghana cedis for broken marriage promise. That is my joy online. Quickly, I'll give you citynewsroom.com, and then you can give us some of the details. COCOBOD slashes salaries, tightens spending amid revenue strain, and NDC has made no real impact in 1 year. This according to Apenyo Markin. And GB Food secures 6,000 acres in Afram Plains for tomato farming. And falling global prices leave Ivorian cocoa unsold, farmers unpaid. I saw a video online. Farmers are packing their cocoa into storage because they're unable to sell. And Patrick Boma bid to bring in the Russian over leaked intimate videos will fail. We said we were going to go for extradition, bring him to Ghana, and he says it will fail. We spoke to him yesterday here on the show. So those are some stories on City Newsroom.
Okay. When we get into the details, and court orders man to pay 200,000 for breach of marital promise. So we're told that the case started when the plaintiff, actually, that's the man, filed a suit to eject the defendant from a two-story apartment, that was owned by the plaintiff, and this resulted in a countersuit by the defendant, who alleged, among others, that the plaintiff had failed to honor his promise to marry her despite being with him for more than a decade. Now, the court, presided over by Justice Sedinam Awo Kwadam, dismissed the plaintiff's reliefs and granted the counterclaim.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're told that the defendant, in her counterclaim, averred that the businessman had promised her marriage over the period of their amorous relationship. She further claimed that in furtherance of that promise, she had to leave her residence at Dansoman to fully commit to the relation. She further told the court that the businessman was listed as an in-law during her father's funeral, contributed financially to the said funeral, as well as wrote a tribute in honor of the deceased. She also added that the plaintiff gave her a promise ring and appointed her to act as foreman for the construction of a 6-unit house, which lasted for about 4 years. She therefore sought the court to award her damages of $40,000 for breach of promise to marry her, and a Toyota RAV4 which the plaintiff had purchased for her. The court at the end of the trial established that the 6-unit property which was completed when the relationship began, and that the woman actively supervised and managed the construction of the said property, while the plaintiff, who was not resident in Ghana, provided the funds for the project. The defendant was subsequently asked to move into one of the 2-bedroom units in 2017, and the plaintiff later joined her upon his return to Ghana. The judge in a judgment held that the defendant has a beneficial interest in the 2-bedroom apartment in East Legon, Accra, currently occupied by her, said interest arising by way of a constructive trust. She therefore ordered the parties to take immediate steps to regularize the woman's interest in the property, and the woman is to continue staying in the apartment. On the issue of breach of promise to marry, the court found that there was indeed a promise to marry after holding that the ring given to the woman by the man was to ward off other suitors. The court held that the man's conduct in 2024, which terminated the 11-year relationship, amounted to a breach of promise, and the court also observed that both parties are over 60 years old, and the woman's chances of finding another man to marry her are slim. Therefore ordered the man to pay general damages of $50,000 and another $150,000 as compensation, and he was further ordered to pay an additional $20,000 as cost to the woman.
Wow.
So that's it. The man gave her a ring. He was listed as in-law during the lady's father's funeral. You cannot finish this and come back and say that.
There are two key conversations that have been brewing on social media over the past couple of weeks. One is marriage fraud, right? Promising somebody to marry them and not marrying them. And I remember somebody posted that there should be a law against that, and people pointed to the fact that we have something like that. And the other is paternity fraud. And so I've been seeing people post about it, but this case is quite interesting. So the man was with a woman for over 10 years. So let's say if it's even 10 years, the woman was 50 years. They were in a relationship for 10 years. So now the woman is 60. She supervised the construction of a multi-story apartment building for you.
Yeah.
In East Legon. If we calculate the value of the apartment and the fee that a supervisor should charge,
foreman,
maybe the woman actually deserves more money.
Well, but she's been asked to take the house,
the 2-bedroom apartment, the car, and 200,000.
Yeah, 200,000.
This is a good one. Yeah. Anyway, let me bring you more stories. The land reform story is a lead story by Daily Graphic, and the story says that the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has begun major reforms of the state lands regime, including the establishment of a public land protection task force, review of the public land application form, and review of the Lands Commission's internal processes for public land allocation. The exercise also involves legislating public land application reforms, revision of public land premiums, and the compilation of market value data for defined land clusters. Now, I hope this will result in maybe a land information bank where anybody can go online to, say, the Ministry of Lands website and find available state lands that are being sold or auctioned, right? And then people can competitively bid. Over the weekend, last week, GRA, for example, posted an ad of goods and vehicles that they were auctioning at the various ports, right? Now, in the same period, the US Embassy in Ghana was also auctioning some things. They had a website with the descriptions there, and then you bid, right? Can we have transparent systems like that, even for our lands, for government auctions, for all these things, so that it's not like people who have insider information are usually the people who have to benefit from these things? So the reforms are great, but let's use technology to enhance some of these reforms and make it more transparent, so that anybody who is interested can find where there are available lands, and they can also jump in and buy some for their businesses. Yeah. Coco?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Let me go to my Joe Online and give you the big story on Cocoa. COCOBOD announces salary cuts, cost controls as revenue pressures mount. And COCOBOD's executive management and senior staff have announced salary reductions for the remainder of the 2025-2026 crop year, citing liquidity challenges in the cocoa industry. In a statement issued Monday, February 16, 2026, COCOBOD said its executive management has taken a 20% pay cut, while senior staff have accepted a 10% salary reduction. And they said the move is part of a broader cost-cutting drive to reduce expenditure and align operational costs with revenue. You know, when we did the analysis last week, we concluded that at the current rate percentage that COCOBOD is going to get, they will not earn enough money to pay themselves and to take care of their costs. So this is a first step. But why not 30%, like the farmers are taking? Why not? Why 20%? Why 10%? Why not 30%?
Exactly. I mean, you're right. In Burkina Faso, the terrorist attack, 7 Ghanaians killed. So story says 7 Ghanaians. Ghanaian tomato traders have been confirmed dead and 4 others injured following a terrorist attack in Tetao, northern Burkina Faso, with the commencement of DNA testing to formally identify the victims whose bodies were burnt beyond recognition. So it talks about, and this story is cut from our interview with the Interior Minister yesterday here on the Super Morning Show. But Gold Board suspends selected gold buying license applications. We're told that the Ghana Gold Board has announced the immediate suspension of new applications for selected categories of gold buying license as part of efforts to reform and modernize the country's gold trading regime. A statement issued by management of Gold Board yesterday, February 16, said the suspension affects fresh applications for Tier 1 and Tier 2 buying licenses, as well as the self-financing aggregator license with immediate effect. So during this period, the aggregator license will be the only trading license category open for new applications.
And the final story is from AGI. They say they can't wait for forever. They can't wait forever for after, and we should be able to build our regional trade access and reduce the logistical and bureaucratic challenges, so we can take advantage of the $450 million market we find ourselves in.